There are stories that we read in the Bible that have great power as standalone stories. Stories like last week's Good Samaritan, as it speaks to how we should treat strangers. Yet, when we read stories in a broader collection of stories, these standalone stories can become even more powerful messages and often are reframed in such a way as to reveal even deeper meanings through those very powerful stories. This is the case in this morning's story about Mary and Martha. I cannot tell you how many sermons that I have heard over my lifetime about this particular story where Martha is villainized. A part of this thought process comes from the type of society that we tend to live in, I believe. We have been taught to understand situations as in black and in white. We have been taught to approach life in an adversarial frame of mind. If one solution seems right, then all of the other solutions must be wrong. We encourage unified thinking through the belief that there is only one right answer and all of the other proposals can't be right. In other words, you have to have a winner and you have to have a loser. That's how our society has conditioned us. Often this was the understanding of those in leadership within the temple system. The laws say this, and this is the way that we should think about it. And yet Jesus would challenge these perceptions by stating what the people expect to hear. And then, as Sherry tells me, Jesus would throw in that knife and twist it. But I say this. This is one of the beauties of the parables which Jesus told. It is his way of forcing more discussion, more examination to the meaning of teaching that has become rigid and filled with abuse. And believe me, a lot of those sermons I heard about Martha are scriptural abuse towards Martha. Often Jesus would present stories that provide a win-win situation. As a society, we don't do so well with that concept of win-win problem solving. I remember as a young parent when the school system nationally started to move in that educational realm and started teaching children that everybody can be a winner. It wasn't too well accepted by parents who had grown up being taught win-lose as the way to live life. And this is the way that today's story has been handled for generations. Win-lose. The story about Mary and Martha is a part of a larger story that deals with the meaning of who's our neighbor. As Jesus told the story of the Good Samaritan, by challenging those biases towards inclusion. In today's reading, the author of Luke expands the meaning of neighbor through the actions of hospitality. One of the major themes in both the Hebrew and Christian Bible is the idea of the importance of hospitality. It isn't just something that was done just to be nice to your neighbor, but it was literally a matter of survival. The concept of hospitality. If a stranger, because there were no bed and breakfasts in the day of Jesus, so if a stranger came to your town, they literally were at your mercy for someone to invite them in, so they would have protection during the night, and they would have food and water. This is one of the concepts that are missed in the birth narrative of Jesus with Mary and Joseph going to Bethlehem. And that idea of there was no room for them in Bethlehem. That is until finally an innkeeper accepts the challenge of hospitality and provides the only place that was available for them, even though it was in a manger. It provided protection. Hospitality truly was the law of the land in that day, because inhospitality could easily mean harm and even death to the visiting stranger. In the culture of the time, Martha was doing what was expected of her. As mistress of the house, it was her responsibility to make sure that everything was ready to receive guests. So why would Jesus be so hard on Martha, who was doing what was expected of her? In any organization, I don't care if it's a church family, if it's the VA, our veterans, VFW, Kiwanis, whatever. In any given organization, there is the 80-20 rule. Anyone know what the 80-20 rule is? I'll tell you. 80% of the people within an organization come and they absorb what's being offered. They're just taking it in. It's just so great. While the other 20% are working behind the scenes of making sure things get done and keep that organization functioning. The problem is, over time, the 20%ers can experience burnout, or worse, resentment towards the 80% crowd. So, how many of you 20%ers in this room wish that Jesus would have thrown a heavy guilt trip on the 80% of those of us in this room, so that we would all be able to step up and do the work that needs to get done, to share the load? You don't have to speak out, I can hear it loud and clear. But Jesus doesn't do that. Why? Doesn't Jesus talk a lot about what is just and fair? And how just is it if there's just a few of you doing 100,000 things to keep the organization going, and everybody else seems to just lay back and enjoy it? Why would he chastise a person who is busy making his stay as comfortable as possible? Maybe there's a deeper meaning then to this story. Maybe the question here is, what motivates our actions? Why do we choose to be either Martha or Mary? The 20% or the 80%? I'm taking a class in community organizing now because I'm getting involved in some things that I want to make sure that I'm not missing some of the steps in how to organize within a community. You would have thought they taught this in seminary, but they don't. So one of the aspects that have been discussed is that of understanding self-interest. Now that doesn't sound very religious, does it? No. Self-interest is the why we do this or we do that. There is 3 of these self-interests. One is classified as selfishness, which is the me-only reason for doing something. What's in it for me? What do I get out of it? What benefits come because of my actions? There is a self-interest, which is a perception of me amongst others, how I fit in, how my actions affect everyone around me, how it benefits not just me, but the community at large. And then there is selflessness. Oh my, I'll just do this and I'll do that just so everybody will be comfortable and handy. I kind of think this is where Martha, at least that's what the writing, the author's talking about, is how Martha is this selflessness. And yet, she's building up all this resentment as well. We call those martyrs. If you are part of the 20% of an organization, that percent who truly keeps all of the things going, keeping it all together for the whole organization, what is it that motivates you in being in that 20%? A sense of responsibility? Well, if I don't do it, nobody else is going to step up and do it, or it's expected of me. That's what the Bible tells me I'm supposed to be doing. I create hospitality because Jesus says that's the way I'm supposed to act. Selfishness and selflessness. Beware, it is fertile ground for begrudging and for burnout. I see this story of Martha and Mary as a continuation of helping us understand what being a neighbor is about and of why we show hospitality to others. When Jesus speaks to Martha, I don't think that he's actually chastising her when you read that section over again, but rather I think he is giving her an opportunity to evaluate why does she feel the need to be going to all of this trouble that is creating stress and anger in her life. Why she feels the need to overload herself, to overburden. When Jesus says, Martha, think about those things that are most important in life. Just step back, take a deep breath, and let it out. And think about what's better, to make sure that the table is full and the beds are made and the house has been swept? Or is it better to sit down with us and to build those relationships? You see, if we get caught up in the mundane things as we make a home for our family, we miss out on being with the family, of creating memories, of living life together. We miss being family. When you think about all the things that life demands of us, let us not be so busy that we miss the real invitation to live life to its fullest. After all, what is more important beyond experiencing the present, the now, with those that are closest to us? Jesus gives us an invitation and permission to just stop and smell the roses, to just enjoy each other's company, to learn about each other. That is true hospitality.